5 days before inauguration, Donald Trump publicly declared that Volodymyr Zelensky, not Vladimir Putin, is the obstacle to peace in Ukraine, not both sides equally, not shared responsibility, Zelensky alone. This marks the first time a U.S. president-elect has explicitly blamed Ukraine's leadership for prolonging a war Russia started by invasion. The statement was made to reporters at Mar-a-Lago on January 15, 2026. It was not a passing remark. It was a deliberate frame. And almost no one is asking the obvious question, why now? Let me show you how this story was covered. Most mainstream outlets led with Trump's claim that a peace deal is close. Reuters used the headline, "Trump says Zelensky, not Putin, is holding up Ukraine peace deal." The BBC titled it, "Trump says Zelensky blocking peace deal with Russia." The Hill emphasized that Trump claimed Putin was ready to make a deal. Notice the framing. The focus is on Trump's assertion that a deal is possible. The emphasis is on optimism, on momentum, on progress. What was minimized? The fact that Trump provided zero evidence that Putin is ready to negotiate in good faith. The fact that he offered no details about what this alleged deal would contain. The fact that Ukraine has lost none of its legal sovereignty, yet is being positioned as the unreasonable party. What was ignored entirely? The timing. Trump made this statement 5 days before taking office. He has no formal power yet. He has no access to classified intelligence briefings on Ukraine's current military position. He has no diplomatic authority to broker anything, but he does have a microphone. And he used it to reframe the war. This is narrative pre-positioning. You set the blame before you take action. That way, when the action comes, the public already knows who the villain is. The media gave him that frame without challenge. Here's what we know. On January 15, 2026, Trump spoke to reporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate. According to Reuters, he was asked whether he believes a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine is possible. Trump's exact words, as reported by multiple outlets, were, "I think Zelensky is not really the holdup. Putin is ready to make a deal." Wait, let me correct that. That's the paraphrase. The actual quote, according to The Telegraph, was the opposite. Trump said Zelensky is the holdup, not Putin. The Hill corroborates this. Their reporting states, Trump told reporters Wednesday that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, not Russian President Vladimir Putin, is holding up a peace deal. The BBC confirms the same framing. Trump said Zelensky was holding things up and that Putin was ready to negotiate. So the record is clear. Trump blamed Zelensky specifically. He did not say both sides need to compromise. He did not say negotiations are complex. He assigned responsibility to one party, Ukraine. Now, here's what we don't know. We don't know what Trump's basis is for claiming Putin is ready. We don't know if Trump has had direct communication with Russian officials. We don't know if intermediaries have provided assurances. We don't know if this is based on public statements Putin has made or private signals Trump believes he's received. Reuters reports that Trump has vowed to end the war within 24 hours, but provides no mechanism for how that would occur. The Independent notes that Trump has previously criticized U.S. military aid to Ukraine and has signaled he wants to reduce American involvement. That much is consistent with his public record. But claiming Putin is ready? That's new, and it's unsourced. Here's the timeline. December 2025, reports emerged that Trump's team is preparing a Ukraine strategy that would involve reducing U.S. military aid and pressuring Kyiv to negotiate. January 10, 2026, Trump's incoming national security advisor reportedly meets with European officials to discuss Ukraine policy. January 15, 2026, Trump publicly blames Zelensky for blocking peace. January 20th, 2026, Inauguration Day. We are watching a narrative rollout. The question is whether it's theater or strategy. The reaction to Trump's statement has been predictable, but worth examining. Ukrainian officials have not issued a formal response as of this reporting. That silence is itself notable. Zelensky's team knows that engaging Trump directly before he takes office risks antagonizing the incoming administration. So they're staying quiet. European allies, according to the BBC, are reportedly concerned about Trump's approach. The Straits Times notes that EU diplomats fear Trump will cut a deal with Putin that sacrifices Ukrainian territory in exchange for a ceasefire. But here's the contradiction. For 2 years, the dominant narrative in Western media has been that Putin is an irrational aggressor who cannot be trusted to negotiate in good faith, that he wants to rebuild the Russian Empire, that he will not stop at Ukraine. Now, suddenly, the idea that Putin is ready to make a deal is treated as plausible. Why? Because Trump said it. If Biden had said Putin is ready, the response would have been immediate skepticism. Journalists would have demanded evidence. Analysts would have questioned Putin's motives. But because Trump said it, the media treats it as a legitimate claim worth debating. This is not bias toward Trump. This is bias toward conflict. The media doesn't care whether the statement is true. They care whether it generates engagement. And blaming Zelensky does that. Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers have issued statements defending Ukraine's right to territorial sovereignty. Some have accused Trump of siding with Putin. Others have warned that any deal that rewards Russian aggression will embolden autocrats worldwide. These are reasonable points, but they miss the deeper issue. Trump is not siding with Putin because he loves Russia. He's siding with Putin because he views the Ukraine war as a costly distraction that prevents him from focusing on China, the border, and domestic priorities. This isn't ideology, it's triage. And the media is covering it as if it's a personality flaw rather than a strategic calculation. Here's what I expect to happen within the next week. Trump will meet with Zelensky shortly after inauguration. That meeting will be framed as a test. If Zelensky refuses to negotiate on terms acceptable to Trump, Trump will publicly declare that Ukraine is being unreasonable. He will then announce a freeze or reduction in U.S. military aid, citing the need to bring both sides to the table. European allies will issue statements of concern but will not fill the gap. They lack the industrial capacity and the political will to sustain Ukraine's war effort without American support. Russia will not immediately agree to a ceasefire. Instead, they will stall, test Trump's resolve, and use the time to consolidate territorial gains. Within 10 days of that aid freeze, you will see a major media narrative shift. Outlets that spent 2 years calling Putin a war criminal will begin running stories asking whether Ukraine's demands are realistic, whether Zelensky is being stubborn, whether the war is truly winnable. This is not speculation. This is pattern recognition. The media follows power, and power is about to shift. If I'm wrong, I'll tell you, but I don't think I am. They don't want you thinking about this. They want you focused on partisan talking points, on whether Trump is pro-Russia or anti-Ukraine, on whether Zelensky is a hero or a holdout. But the real story is simpler. A president-elect just blamed a sovereign nation under invasion for refusing to surrender, and the media treated it like a legitimate negotiating position. That's not journalism, that's stenography. If you think this information matters, if you think people deserve to hear analysis that doesn't come pre-packaged with a political agenda, then you know what to do. They don't want this getting out. Help us fight the algorithm. Spread the truth.